Court, the whip for PPP, and those are the 6 political parties with whom we work. We also have representatives to other parliaments and organizations. The Honorable Flavia Nabagabe Karure, the woman MP for Kasanda, is the Interparliamentary Union representative. The Honorable Patrick Nsamba Oshabe, he's the representative for the Pan-African Parliament. The Honorable David Uchams Kalwanga is the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association representative. The Honorable Hassan Chirumira, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation representative. The Honorable Kazibwe Bashir, the EU Parliament representative. The Honorable Aisha Kabanda Narure, the Parliamentary Pension Scheme representative. The Honorable Zake Francis Butebi is our commissioner. And then we have a number of shadow ministers who will also join the team here, so you can see them. The Honorable Betty Etho Naruyima is the local government minister. The Honorable Francis Katabaz Katongole is the East African Community Affairs minister. The Honorable Abed Bwanika is our Minister for Agriculture. The Honorable Fortunate Nantongo Rose is the Gender, Labour and Social Development Minister. The Honorable Shamim Malende, who is unfortunately unwell, is the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. The Honorable Dr. Timothy Lusala Batua is our Minister for Health. The Honorable Helen Nachimuli is our Minister for Animal Industry and Fisheries. The Honorable Hanifa Nabukera is the Minister for Human Rights. The Honorable Brenda Nabukenya from Luwero is our Minister for Education. The Honorable Ronald Balimwezo is our Minister for Lands and Housing. The Honorable Hilary Chiaga, also known as Dr. Hildeman, is our Minister for Culture and Performing Arts. The Honorable Jonathan Odur, the Minister for Defense and Veteran Affairs. The Honorable Mwada Nkunyinji, Minister for Foreign Affairs. The Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi is our Minister for Works and Transport. The Honorable Abbe Kakawalia, Minister in charge of KCC Affairs. The Honorable Francis Mwijushe is the Minister for Trade and Industry. The Honorable Atkins Katusabe is the Minister for Public Service. The Honorable Derek Nyeko is our Minister for Presidency and Security. The Honorable Anna Adeke Ebaju, a Minister for Cooperatives and Microfinance. The Honorable Frank Kabuye is our Minister for Youth and Children Affairs. The Honorable Asnansi Nyakato is our Minister for Energy and Minerals. The Honorable Geoffrey Kayemba Solo is our Minister for Sports. The Honorable Santa Okot is our Minister for Special Regions. And then we have accountability committee leaders. And we have the Honorable Meda Lubega Segona, who is the chairperson of Park Central, Public Accounts Central. The Honorable Joel Senyonyi is our chairperson for Kosase. The Honorable Betty Nambo Zebachireke is our minister, is our chairperson for government assurances. And the Honorable Lucy Akelo as vice chairperson Kosase. The Honorable Asman Basalirwa, who is the whip for JEMA, is also the vice chairperson of Park Central. And then the Honorable Joseph Sewungu is the vice chairperson of government assurances. Then the Honorable Semakula Lutamaguzi is the vice chairperson of Park Local Government, while the Honorable Gilbert Olanya is the chair designate of Park Local Government. That is the shadow cabinet, and it includes everyone, our representatives to other parliaments and organizations, our committee leaders, the real cabinet, and then the opposition whips. You're welcome, and thank you very much for work well done. The team here is part of the efforts that made this day happen, especially the content of this budget. You're welcome, and thank you very much. Apologies, there's just one member of the cabinet that was not introduced, and that is the Honorable Wilfred Niwagaba. He's our shadow attorney general. Yeah, and he's present. You're welcome. Yeah.
I think in the lineup, I also did not see Honorable Joyce Bagala, who is our Shadow Minister for Information and Anti-Corruption. Let's give her a round of applause, please. There's a way you can always tell when somebody is important is about to enter the room or someone has entered the room. So it gives me pleasure to now ask the leader of opposition to come and take his seat, and also have the leaders of the different political parties come and take their seats. I'm sure you have noticed that we have been joined by the president of the National Unity Platform, Honorable Kyagulanyi Robert Ssentamu. I think you can give a better round of applause than that. Yeah. So let me invite other political party leaders to please come and take your seats. Our distinguished guests, just so you know, I shall just read out all the political party leaders that we expect to be seated up the front, in no particular order. For the PPP, Mr. Saddam Gaira, who is the acting president. For the Justice Forum, Mr. Katerega Mohammed, who is the SG and also acting president of the party. For the older parties, Uganda People's Congress, Dr. Kilama Omoro Matthias. I believe we shall be joined by the Democratic Party president. Like I was saying, we shall be joined from the Democratic Party by Honorable Norbert Mao. He's not here yet, but he will be with us shortly. For the Forum for Democratic Change, we've got Honorable Doreen Nyanjura. You're most welcome. Okay. And for the National Unity Party, Honorable Kyagulanyi Robert Ssentamu, who is no stranger here. Yeah. You are all most welcome, and we're honored to have your distinguished presence here with us today. Now, our honorable members, our guests, today we're here to listen to the different alternatives as presented by the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. Before we hear from the Finance Minister, I would like us to turn our attention to the screens that we have to the sides, and we shall have a playback of the different shadow ministers and what their priorities are for this coming year. Please.
So my name is Joyce Bagala Antuatwa. I am the Woman Member of Parliament for Mityana District and the Shadow Minister for Information and Anti-Corruption. Under our anti-corruption docket, in our priorities, we intend to cause a national reparation commission in this country to ensure that we extend amnesty to those who will have been documented over the years to have stolen public funds. We give them the opportunity to give us part of the money they stole, but also if they fail, then the law can take its course. We are looking at having performance-based contracts for all the people who will be doing work, public work for the public, for the government. We are looking at strengthening the e-governance issue, especially when it comes to procurement, so that all procurements, public procurements, are really done under an e-government system to be followed up very properly. But we're also looking at having a mandatory lifestyle audit. We need to ensure as a country that public sector workers, the money, the income they generate, the income they get is proportionate to their wealth. And then when we go to the ICT or information, of course, we are looking at a number of things, particularly on strengthening, on extending infrastructure across the entire country. We need to ensure that we have an ICT infrastructure that can enable a majority of Ugandans to access internet services, to access ICT services, but also to bring down the cost of internet, to bring down the cost of ICT services, but also to bring down the cost of ICT devices so that they can be affordable to most of the Ugandans to benefit the entire country. We want to see that the UCC tribunal is in place and operational. It's been talked about for a number of years. It needs to be operational. This will help arbitrate issues that arise among us media practitioners, but also it's not just about the UCC tribunal, it's also about the UCC Act. We need to amend it to serve its purpose. We are looking at introducing a social media charter. This is new, I'm very sure new to Ugandans. A social media charter, first of all, to ensure that Ugandans enjoy the freedom of expression, enjoy the freedom of speech, but also enjoying that freedom while putting into consideration the other people with whom they interact, with whom they enjoy this right, enjoying the right to expression, enjoying the freedom of expression, while putting into consideration other people, while protecting Ugandans from the harmful effects of social media use.
Hello Uganda, this is Geoffrey Kayemba Solo, Member of Parliament representing Bukomansimbi South Constituency and Bukomansimbi Greater Masaka, and an alternative minister for sports. One of my priorities as a minister is sports infrastructure at a regional level. So that in Arua, we have an international stadium, the same in Kabale, the same in Masaka, that will help us to grow the sports more and more and more. And that's the role of the government. Another priority is about the tax waivers. When you look at other sectors we have in this country, other investors are given tax waivers. Other products come free of taxes, but sports is totally different. Sports is becoming professional. Sports is just growing in our country. So we need a greater attention there. That's why we call upon what we need. We give tax waivers to the investors that come here, to remove taxes from all sports products that come into our country, so that we can attract more investors into the sport. If we don't do that, we are going to lose many people, and sports is going to remain as a leisure activity. When you look at former athletes, the way they look, my friend, you don't need to tell your child to join these sports. They are just suffering. Yet they have carried the national flag. They have marketed Uganda everywhere. So we need a better way, a better system for them, financial system for them. They need, if you come on a national team, you need to be paid, you need to receive your pensions so that they can act as a good example to the younger generation. Thank you very much.
I'm Dr. Batua Timothy Lusala, Member of Parliament, Jinja West Constituency. I'm the Shadow Minister of Health. I lead the entire opposition on matters on health. We've looked at budget priority number 1 as the need of functionalizing health center force. We've established that there is a relationship between dental care and non-communicable diseases. If dental care is not well addressed, you now tend to have your heart diseased. You tend to have other organs diseased. So we want that service to be handled at Health Center Force, maternal health to be handled there. There is a theater, so if it's supported with an ultrasound scan, that can be handled. There's an X-ray that should also complement theater. So if we functionalize Health Center Force, we shall reduce the congestion at national referral, at the regional referral hospitals, and we shall address a very high number of citizens. Secondly, we are going preventive rather than curative. So we want to strengthen the village health teams, the community health extensive workers. We envisage a Uganda that has village health teams, each individual carrying a glucometer, a blood pressure machine, being in position to even understand and read the, pulse oximeters, such that health is handled primarily at household levels, and effective referrals can be made thereafter. We want to eradicate malaria completely out of Uganda. Our plan is that the mosquito is the enemy, and therefore we should spray the mosquito to bring down the population below a threshold that the disease of malaria simply gets eradicated. We are going to prioritize aerial spraying, and we are going for the large sources, large larva sources. We go for the wetlands, do aerial spraying in there, do larviciding in there at massive scale. Once the large sources of mosquitoes are suppressed, the disease will get eradicated. We improve the human resource structure so that you access a medical personnel that needs to address your health issue at the facilities that are at lower level. Last but not least, we are desirous to reduce the out-of-pocket spending. We know that largely most of the Ugandans are spending so much on health. We have interacted with those that have to sell some of their belongings, some of their properties, a goat to treat. They sell a cow to handle medical costs. So we are going to design and bring in place a very good medical health insurance scheme. Thank you very much.
Dr. Bed Bwanika, the Shadow Minister for Agriculture. We are aware that 74% of our population is rural. Our priorities, number 1, is to ensure that we provide water for production. This is water for irrigation, so that we can get our people from farming that depends on rain to farming that depends on irrigation. That will improve production and productivity for our people who are engaged in farming. Our second priority is to ensure that we invest in the storage system for the food. We need to invest in silos so that our people, they don't sell their foods while they have just harvested. We also want to reduce the losses which are post-harvest. We want to invest in the market access. Currently, because there is no traceability for our food products, we don't have a national food regulatory agency. That also impedes our people, and it limits them in terms of market access. So we want to invest in an agency that is going to regulate food and food products in this country. That is going to be a priority. Currently, we don't have a National Bank for Agriculture, and our people access commercial loans which don't rhyme with agriculture and the dynamics of agriculture. Government is talking about PDM, and they want to invest over 1 trillion shillings annually into PDM. This man alone is enough for us to establish a National Agricultural Bank so that our farmers can access affordable credit and it can be available for them. We want to invest in the area of agricultural inputs. Currently, we have substandard agricultural inputs on the market in terms of herbicides, acaricides, in terms of drugs. And these have affected the farmers in terms of losses, but also it affects the productivity of our farmers. So we want to invest in that area as a priority so that our farmers can access affordable but quality agricultural inputs so that we can improve agriculture in this country. I want to thank you so much.
My name is Honorable Nyakato Asnas. I'm the Woman Member of Parliament for Hoima Oil City and the Shadow Minister for Energy and Mineral Development. As the alternative government in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, this coming financial year, we plan to ensure that we compensate all the project-affected persons along the pipeline and also all the project-affected persons in the mineral-prone areas like Karamoja, Bushia, Mubende, and Buhweju. We also plan to ensure that we prioritize the issue of the refinery. We need the refinery as early as yesterday. The issue of local content is an issue which we feel we have to address in this coming financial year. And of course, the issue of the fuel reserves. We very well know that as a country, we have those reserves which were far back constructed in 1971 by the former president, Idi Amin Dada. So it's a high time that as an alternative government, we prioritize the issue of establishing our own reserves, the new reserves, and to higher capacity. We also plan to ensure that we cut the power tariffs. The power tariffs are so high that a vulnerable Ugandan cannot afford. It is so expensive. The prices of sustainability, just imagine the pole, just a single pole going at 720,000. It is too much money for a vulnerable Ugandan to afford. The issue of deemed energy. This electricity which has been produced, it is in the dams, but it has not been connected to the main grid. We are going to make sure that we prioritize to ensure that most of these dams have been connected to the main grid so that Ugandans can be able to consume this electricity.
My name is Brenda Nakenya, MP for Luel District and Shadow Minister for Education. As the alternative, we want an ideal education sector which offers quality education and which is accessible to all, regardless of where they come from, who they are, what kind of disabilities they have. In this financial year, we are prioritizing 4 issues. The first issue is the restoration of the Inspectorate of Schools department in the education sector. We are aware that actually the Department of Inspection is less funded. Inspection is not only limited to infrastructure, number of teachers, but also quality of education. If you underfund the Inspectorate department, then you're killing education. Secondly, we want to popularize the new lower secondary curriculum. There have been so many outcries from the teachers, the learners, and also those stakeholders who are very interested in education that actually it is very hard to instruct learners in this new curriculum because most of the teachers were not well prepared. So as the alternative, we want to correct these mistakes in this coming financial year. As the alternative, we want to increase capitation grant for the effective management of schools at all levels. We are going to better this so that we provide quality education to our learners. We want to put food in schools, and we are coming up with a policy which we are going to fund so that we can better all our schools in this country.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the rest of, yes, you can give them a round of applause. The rest of the alternative policies, the statements from the shadow ministers will be played later on. But that was to help you get a feel, especially of the theme for this budget reading, which is Rethinking Uganda's Economy, a human rights approach to resources allocation. Now, our main presentation for the day is coming up, but I would like to invite the Shadow Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, to kindly come and take us through the budget highlights. And thereafter his highlights, we shall have the budget speech from the Leader of the Opposition in Parliament. So let's give Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi a round of applause. He might not have a briefcase, but I'm sure that what he has is adequate enough.
the President of the National Unity Platform, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the leader of opposition and my boss. I'm being very careful with the protocol. I'm not very used to protocol. And I know the representative of JEMA, the representative of PPU. I don't know how Honorable Nyanjula is representing the road. PP. Honorable Nyanjula could be representative of the road mayor, I would guess. FDC is the president of FDC. So I came late. First of all, and honorable colleagues, I've seen the Inspector General of Government and quite the Secretary General of our party. I've seen my boss, the Opposition Chief Whip. Due protocol observed. I first of all tender my apology. I came in late. I had a lecture to give in Makerere from 8 to 10. And it's an international class. I always teach it twice a year. So I had to make that obligation. So I'm sorry for coming late. It's not my ways. My work is simple. My work is to present the highlights of the budget. But before I do so, let me remind myself and the colleagues here, when I was running our trade in public service, Dr. Kawanga Semogerere emphasized that we must sharpen our 5 senses. For you to have a successful career in public life, in whatever endeavor you go to, you must have a sense of duty, a sense of responsibility, a sense of conviction, a sense of commitment, a sense of sacrifice, a sense of patriotism, and above all, a sense of courage. During my presentation, I will refer to each of these senses because whatever I'm going to present speaks volumes about them. The highlight of, I'm supposed to make a very brief presentation. The highlight of this budget, I'm required to really give the highlight of the resource envelope. And the entire budget speech will be by the leader of opposition. And I will not diverge so much into those details. Now, when you look at, I don't know whether that graph is big enough. We have 2 budgets. We have the government's budget, and that's the one I will start with, which is the resource envelope. It has revenue projected to be 28.8 trillion. They intend to, by law, you have to indicate whether you get money from the petroleum fund. The government indicated they will get 0. Now, I want only that one. They intend to do a domestic borrowing, where they are going to borrow. Last year, they borrowed 5 trillion. This year, they are going to borrow 1.5 trillion. They are going to do external borrowing. External borrowing last year was 6.7 trillion. This year, they are going to borrow 8 trillion. That's the government's budget proposal from the budget framework paper, because I've looked at this morning at the detail of the budget that they've laid. It has slightly changed. The figures are fairly different, slightly different. They are going to do a domestic refinancing, which is the debt rollover. Of last year, it was 8 trillion. This year, it is going to increase to 8.7 trillion. They are going to do local government revenue for local government mobilization, and this speaks volumes. All our local governments are going to generate 238 billion and 200, and it will be the same as this year. Now, when you look at that budget, the total amount of money will be 48 trillion, which they are going to collect, but then they go down to reduce that budget because some are statutory obligations. They are going to do external debt repayment. That is the money they are going to use to pay for our external debt, which is called amortization. They are going to pay 2.4 trillion of that money. So you reduce the 48, the 49 now by 2.4, which is amortization. There is going to be project support, which is external financing. This money borrowed of 8 trillion, you reduce it because government does not have that money. You also reduce debt rollover. I may explain a bit about debt rollover. Debt rollover is money that government borrowed out of our domestic market. Our domestic borrowing now stands at about 14 to 18 trillion. But that will mature this year. And ideally, we should have paid it back. If we had a sound economy, we would have paid back 8 trillion. But this government does not have that money. So what it instead does, it goes back to the market and borrows and pays for that debt. And we pay interest on it. So that's what they call a debt rollover. It matures, we should have paid it, we don't have the money, we go back. So you pay from me, you borrow from me to pay Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. And then you pay me interest. So ideally, you should have paid Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu his own money, the president, but you don't have that money. So you go back and borrow to pay debt. So that money doesn't come at all to service delivery. So they are going to have domestic areas, and we have issues with domestic areas. Last year they paid 261 billion. This year they are going to pay 200 billion. They are going to pay, they call it appropriation in aid. These are
katuteteganye mwempereza eno tupeeku ne bye tukutuusaako. Enoni Baba TV obusoga bulayire. It's that time of the year again to buy Azam TV and get 4 months of free subscription. Enjoy Messi, Mbappe in French League One, Carabao Cup, Nat Geo Wild, Baby TV, CNN, Al Jazeera, and all the local channels on Azam Pure at 13,000 shillings. Watch cartoons, Bundesliga on Azam Plus at 30,000 shillings only, and Azam Play at 45,000 shillings. Call us on 0312 308 900 and get connected. Terms and conditions apply.
Ulex Property Consultants Limited tusangibwa Nansana ku Jenina State oba tukubire ku namba z'essimu zino wammanga 0752 46 11 oba 0788 46 11 jangu ofune ekyomulembe. Ulex.
Every activity okujimaliriza, you need a refreshment. Not all refreshments are up the standards you require. Okitegeera? Katino, choose the best. Ekisingayo ngaye Chituzi drink. A drink made from fresh everything okugeza mushroom obutiko, fresh bee honey, omubisi gwenjuki. So for great energy, excitement and a better day. Find Chituzi drink in a shop or supermarket near you. For more information, tukubireko kunoti musanvu nana musanvu satu noti nya tano satu emo. Chituzi.
It is in our passion. It is in our achievements. It is in our architecture and our heritage. It is in the way we nurture and innovate. Imagine if everything we learned led to the one job you have always wanted. The journey isn't always easy, but with the right support, we can succeed and be anything we put our minds to. We come from diverse backgrounds, united by a single purpose, improving our lives through intrication and achieving more than you dreamt possible. Lubega Institute of Nursing and Health Professionals. Interviews for the July 2023 intake will start on 30th March. For more information, please call 0772 460 130. Lubega Institute of Health Professionals. Enter to learn, go forth to serve.
Enoni Baba TV obusoga bulaire. Katutetegamyemu empeereza eno tupeeku ne bye tukutuusaako.
For the executive to allocate as they wish. So we've gone ahead to remove the 6.9 trillion of wage. And we've gone away to remove, for us, the Constitution, the Public Finance Management Acts, mandates government in Section 77 that every financial year there should be a contingency fund. A contingency fund is 0.05 of the previous budget. This contingency fund will help us once it is fully provided for. And the law says replenish every financial year. Water? I will not take. Okay, thank you. I was on contingency fund. The law clearly says every financial year you should go out and replenish it. So you put a percentage of 0.05 on 48 trillion of last year, and you get that amount of money. The contingency fund provision will address the question of disaster, will address the necessity for supplementary, will address, government has not been providing for that money. So when you go down and reduce all those deductions, the actual money on the government's budget are variable for service delivery, for roads, for infrastructure, for doing water, is only 15 trillion out of 49. And there is no economic expert that can persuade us to think that wage or gratuity or pension or contingency fund are part of a discretionary what? Funding. So we go ahead. So as the Honorable Kasaija on June 1st, he should acknowledge that's the true amount. But they've been ballooning it to indicate 22 to tell you that they are in a healthier financial position than the country actually is. Now I'm going to do a justification of our own budget. Can we have a slide? Now for us, we've done our budget, and I'm going to justify every single coin on our table. Our revenue is not going to be like a government. Our revenue is going to be 32 trillion. And I will justify where we are going to get the 32. We are going to get, first of all, we projected that government consistently has been reporting a shortfall on URA correction of nearly 1 trillion. So we reduced the government's budget projection of 48. For us, we project that if all goes well, from URA, we shall collect only 27. We cater for the 1 trillion shortfall that is consistently reported. But for us, we've been very callous. We are saying this government exempts, tax exemption, every single year for people who don't pay tax. 7.7 trillion last year. We are saying if we're in government, everyone must pay their dues. The rich must pay, as the poor pay. And I'll quote Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown was a former Chancellor of Exchequer of UK. This is what Gordon Brown said. Wealthy is not wealthy unless that wealth helps more than the wealthy. If you are wealthy and you are only helping the wealthy, then that wealth is just a waste. He said, fortune should help more than the fortunate. And riches must not only enrich some of the community, but must enrich all the community. That's what Gordon Brown said. So it's even civic and natural cultural value for those that God has given so much to pay back to society as much. And I'm saying everyone must pay. Even those that have powers to legislate themselves out of the taxable base. When we take over government, you will pay. Even if it's parliament, you will pay on your emoluments. Yes, you don't want to hear that. If I'm a minister of finance, there will be no law that exempts any Ugandan from not paying tax. Because if just parliament paid, our taxes in a financial year will be 100 billion. So every constituency will have the 100 you need for the road fund. And so are the leaders. Everyone will make his bill. The rich must pay. People want better roads, better everything, and you say you don't want to pay. Your driver pays. His salary is consolidated. The councillor pays the tax on allowance. You legislate yourself out of what? Of payment bracket. That is not moral. And as the finance minister in our government, we will pay. And I will pay. Even the Lord will pay. Even the president will pay his taxes this time. This president, some presidents exempt themselves. Even I'm saying, generals in this country, all the armed forces don't pay. We are saying the rank of a general, be patriotic, pay. You are no longer a recruit. We can excuse these lower hanging foot soldiers of the army rank not to pay. But from a rank of a colonel, captain to generals, pay tax. We shall not buy you new cars and you don't pay. So we shall be a little bit tough on tax revenue. So we will generate out of 7, we will recover 2. But also, these companies will exempt. How can you exempt, like roofing? I will give you an example of roofing. It has been here for ages, but it doesn't want to pay tax. Nyanza doesn't pay. I can go through companies that don't pay. Steel and Tube don't pay. Every rich person in this country doesn't pay. Please, when we take over government, the rich, you will pay. And the poor, pay. Can you imagine pay as you earn? Can you imagine pay as you earn? The very small, because the biggest component of our budget comes from pay as you earn. Okay? But the person you are deducting from pay as you earn is the person you are going to deduct VAT. The person you are going to deduct fuel tax. So let every one of us, please, pay his dues. And you know what? It's because you are building a patronage. Tax exemption is a part of building a patronage. And we've got to break that cartel of patronage by making them pay their fair dues. Let president be elected by the strength of their manifesto, their ideas, not because they've built a cartel of rich people who don't pay and feed off our people. That's why we are going to raise 4 trillion. We are going to raise another 1 trillion by being tax effective. We are collecting our tax to GDP efficiency collection is at 13%. The region is at 16%. If you only up the ante a little bit, less corruption, less evading of tax, and everybody's tax, you'll get another 1 trillion by being less corrupt, by being more efficient. So we shall add it. That's how we shall generate the 32. On donor funding, we will generate more donor confidence than a government that abuses human rights, that imprisons people, that has better democratic credentials, organizes free and fair elections. The world will be willing to help you a little more. So we are telling government, instead of investing in war and these other things, just make your democratic credential first, you will raise more money. And we are saying we raise from 2 trillion, we shall raise 3, another trillion, because we will be a more democratic country. I don't think our president or any of the presidents seated here will be faltered on democratic credentials. That's why you must know, by being autocratic and being dictatorial, you hurt the economy. You are a proponent of poverty. So those people who are saying you need a authoritarian, big leader, a very powerful president, they hurt the economy. Now, external borrowing, because you've raised more money, we will keep our external borrowing as to what we have inherited. We shall not increase it. Because while it remains as is, even if you become a president today, they already signed international obligations the country will have to meet. And it will be a country that meets our international obligations. So we will stay with the external borrowing as it was last year, but not increase it. Then on debt rollover. Debt rollover, we are saying the moment, because you are going to the domestic market to borrow 2 trillion, to borrow 1.5 trillion, you have collected 5 more trillion more. So on debt rollover, you'll go out there and honor our debt and begin to redeem. Out of 8 trillion, you can't redeem it in one financial year and not collapse an economy. But every year, we shall redeem 2 first, 3. In 3 years, we shall have no debt rollover. And you know the saving? If you do that, the interest payment on loans will go down to nearly 2 trillion. And you'll have 3 trillion to spend on service delivery. And they're saying 1 trillion in PDM is a game changer. But you are donating it in interest payment, 5. Actually, they're going to be 6. So we will reduce that and do debt rollover. And begin, so we shall keep the debt rollover to 6, other than raising. And for me, and let me say this, there it is here. I believe you should investigate Vote 130 and that debt rollover. I believe the bulk of it is a fixed years expense. It's another way of abusing our finances the way they do on classified expenditure. And now, as I know, I have evidence, they do on shoulder contracts. So, most likely, that rollover is to build some fake funding for patronage support. The next one is local revenue. We will not harass wananchi. We will keep it as it is. As it is, we shall raise more money. But I have issue with local revenue. I believe, and I've been questioning this, there are government-funded agencies where we are paying billions of money in their supporting the budget. We spend more money to support government agencies that should have given us revenue than the revenue we get. Every government agency that fails in 2 financial years on our watch to have a break even. One, we will assess it. If we believe you are fake, we shall privatize you. If not, we will change the management. Every government agency, within 1 year, you can assess them. Now, we go to reducing. So our collection will be 48 billion. External debt repayment amortization, we will keep it as government has kept it, because for last financial year, we would not have borrowed more. External borrowing, we will keep it to 6 trillion.7. Debt rollover, I've said, we will keep it to 6. And domestic areas. Let me speak about domestic areas. The domestic areas that government should pay to the people who have provided various services to the economy, to the government, is 844. We will pay it all in one financial year, because that will stimulate the economy. The people you pay are the indigenous. What happens? You are paying foreigners, you are paying Wazungu, but China. You are paying everybody. You are refusing to pay the local providers. They have borrowed the money in the local banks. That's why you have a lot of mortgages on the market. So please, and it is erroneous to be budgeting for supplementary and you are accumulating areas. Because government is agencies and accounting officers are not supposed to commit government where they don't have money. That's why for every other anticipated expenditure, if they don't have the money, they submit in a supplementary. At the same time, you are supplementary spending and you're also accumulating areas. It is erroneous. It is not in any school of economics. Then, so we'll pay 100%. We'll also reduce. So our budget will come to 32. For us, we'll go back and reduce interest payment. I've said, because we've redeemed our debt rollover, because we've not borrowed more debt, we shall have only 3.3 trillion. Interest payment, please put it back. Interest payment, so we shall reduce interest payment, gratuity, debt, wages as they are, and we shall have a discretionary expenditure of 20 trillion. Vis-a-vis government is 15. And we believe with that expenditure, when you have a resource envelope of 20 realistic trillion, other than the 22 that is fixed years. So you run the two, you run the two of ours and theirs and on the same sheet. And you see the difference. So you'll have more money for our budget, more money for government to spend, and more everything. So, honorable colleagues, our budget resource envelope will be that much. But let me say a few things here as I wind up. No amount, and I should better be understood, no amount of economic engineering can fix an economy without a leadership with the financial discipline. Today, if I'm made a Minister of Finance or a Secretary to Treasury with the same behavioral tendencies, I'll not make even a scratch impact. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? We've spent 527 billion on ATIAC without any bag of sugar coming out of ATIAC, of taxpayers' money. We've spent 314 billion on Uchiramoto without Uchiramoto putting even a wheelbarrow on the street of Kampala. That is almost $1 trillion. We've spent a lot of money on banana something. It's called what? Presidential banana thing. A lot of money. And Kenya here, they want maize. They are dying of, they want wunga. They're on riots for wunga. If I had invested that money in low-hanging fruits, like boost up the maize production. I hear, yesterday I saw a debate in Parliament. MPs crying for 4 billion to distribute each 1 ton of maize. Now, in my constituency, I have 10,000 homes. Now, if you give me 1 ton of maize, That is 1,000 kilograms. That means each home, I'll give it 10 grams of seeds of maize to fight food sustenance, food security. It's a broad joke. And there was a huge debate, consumed an hour. And each MP is going to carry 10 grams of maize per home to fight hunger. How on earth? That's really a joke. So there are small things that you can do, and I can go through that will impact on the... So, two, and they know the law will go through it. Two things need to be made clear. One, for as long as you operate your economy on solvency and not on liquidity as a paradigm, you will not go very far. Solvency is economic kaunyem. You know economic kaunyem? It's for an disciplined economy, disciplined people who are likely not to pay back. They say, please reduce your debt to the GDP debt ratio. Otherwise, Japan is 100, 250 in terms of GDP to debt ratio. It's because for them, they say, you borrow and you are going to generate income. But today, I hear every unbankable idea in this country, unbankable project, the last land of last resort, actually the land of first resort is government of Uganda. Now somebody wants to come here and borrow 2 trillion to create a pharmaceutical company. 2 trillion, and with the fixed years records. And the caucus is called, they've called caucuses of all chairpersons, of all various caucuses under NRM, to come here and push a supplementary of 600 billion to give it to somebody who was almost imprisoned in India. Please, some people should leave us for a given evening. We are not a country of fools. Two, you cannot spend that much money on security. Yesterday, I looked at the numbers of wage for soldiers. They brought a supplemental of 90 for science increment and 339 billion to increase wage on these so-called crime preventers. Now, the total wage for UPDF is going to be nearly 800. Can you sustain with the country at peace, without war, without anything? Can you sustain that? So why don't we invest in diplomacy? Stop regional warmongering. Stop all these endeavors. Encourage democratic governance in our neighboring countries. It is cheaper. I will not eat up the presentation of a budget speech. I beg to rest my case.
Yes, I think Honorable Chivumbi deserves a better round of applause than that. Well, I can tell you I was surprised that the small folder can have so much information. It is, but I will keep my reservations on that one. Distinguished guests, before we have the budget speech presented to us, let us just have 2 more statements from the shadow ministers. This will allow for everybody to internalize what the Minister for Finance has proposed in his in the highlights, and thereafter the leader of the opposition will come and wrap it up properly. So let's have just 2 more presentations from the shadow ministers. Thank you.
This is Kaya Christine Nashimoero, Chivoga District Woman Member of Parliament, and also the Alternative Minister for Water and Environment. As an alternative government, we feel that we should concentrate on the following issues. One, we need to renovate, rehabilitate the already dilapidated ecosystems, especially forests. And then we have to evict all encroachers. We must regularize the surveys and boundary demarcations such that the residents are aware. Those who have already acquired the titles within these forest reserves and wetlands have to be evicted immediately. We are also looking at revamping the financing of climate change management options. There are a lot of finances out there, but we're just looking on. Yet our national budget can no longer sustain the actions we feel can build the resilience of our people. We are also looking at strengthening the meteorological services in Uganda, because weather forecasts are very important to help our people decide the economic activities that they can take part in.
Enoni Baba TV obusoga bulaire.